Welcome to GameReads. I'm your host, Sean Callahan, and I'm here today with Matt Dinniman. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome, dude. Thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
And you are a big guy on the con circuit, on the convention circuit, because you have a business where you sell stuff at conventions, correct?
That is correct. I go to cons for a living. I sell stupid pictures of cats with mustaches and dogs like this. This is one of my pieces. And I've been doing that for, almost 10 years now. A couple years ago, I did 43 shows in 1 year, which is a lot. That is a lot. That's too many. This year, I pared it down quite a bit. I count like craft shows as shows, but like those little old lady shows where you're next to people with crocheted shirts and stuff. But I've done, I think, 12 or 13 this year, and that's still a lot.
That 1 year, you must have been on the road like all the time.
I was. It was every weekend except for 1 weekend a month pretty much for the entire year.
Wow.
And as soon as I was done with that year, I was like, you know what? I am never doing that again. As fun as it is, I mean, I think you travel too, so you know.
Yes.
It's cool at first, and then it gets old very, very fast.
I mean, I travel internationally like every week, and people are like, oh my gosh, you get to go to, like Rome and, like Bavaria and Asia. And I'm like, it might as well be Wisconsin. Because
Right.
As long as there's a comfortable bed and a good meal somewhere, I don't care where I am.
Right. And if you're working, you get there, you go do your thing, you collapse at night, and then you go home. And then a lot of times I go to places I don't even get to see where I am. Like
Right.
San Jose this past week in Worldcon, which was one of my favorite events I've ever done. I didn't get to see San Jose at all. My life was like the 2 square blocks around the convention center. And that's what happens when you work at them. But it's fun. But it's tiring too.
Let's take a look at some of your art. So you got Space Corgi. You said that's your bestseller.
That's one of my best sellers. I have Abraham Lincoln riding a T-Rex. That's a good one. I have Pug riding a narwhal.
Yeah, because you got a pug, right? You own a pug.
I do. He
Toby.
just wandered off. Yeah, Toby.
Pug Toby, because my dog's named Toby as well. So kudos to that, man. What's your favorite piece of art that you've done?
My favorite that I've done in that style that I sell, I have a Antler Girl, and it's not that interesting. It doesn't sell very well. Not that interesting to other people, but for whatever reason, I really like that one. And it's one of the few ones that I actually would put up in my own house. I don't put my own art up because I look at it all day anyway.
You said that one of your biggest fears is you have a fear of clowns.
That's true.
Which is, of course, that's a fairly normal one. Stephen King probably inspired a hell of a lot of clown fear. And the $1 million question is, Matt, have you done some clown? Because I know you're a horror fan too.
I am.
So have you done horror clown cat art?
I do. I have a clown cat. It's not horror. It's not a very attractive piece of art, I think. I actually sold a postcard of that though, and that was sold in Germany, I think, is where it got sold. And for whatever reason, Germans like clown cats.
Yeah, those crazy Germans, man.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're a creative guy to begin with. And so what got you? Well, first of all, let's just mention the books that you've written and published.
Okay.
You've got 5. You started off with The Shivered Sky.
Correct.
And then you had a book of short stories, which is no longer available in ebook, but you can still get it in print, probably.
Correct.
And it's called Trailer Park Fairy Tales.
That's correct.
Gotta love that. And then the next book, we got The Grinding, which
Correct.
is just a cool cover in my mind. That was being looked at for Netflix at one time, right?
Yeah, sort of. I had like a little nibble once by a producer. Nothing ever came of it. I wouldn't want to jinx it. I personally think it would be a great short series. It's a story about a giant monster that made out of roller derby girls, basically, and football fans that destroys Tucson, Arizona. I wrote it as I was leaving, moving out of Tucson, and it was my way of saying goodbye to the city. And
Yeah. A big double eagle, you mean?
yeah, and I nuked the city in the end, and that's not a spoiler because I mentioned it in the first paragraph. So
There you go. A little bit of foreshadowing there.
yes,
And then we go on to the big series, my favorite series. I really enjoyed the hell out of this so far, and I'm chomping at the bit for the third one. And that is Dominion of Blades. And the first book being Dominion of Blades, and the second book being Hobgoblin Riot, the Hobgoblin Riot. And what a riot it is, man. It is a crazy ride. One of the things that was really interesting to me when I started reading this was you're very in touch with your characters because they're definitely three-dimensional and they definitely feel real to me. And they are super cool. We'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to start on the book yet because we've got some other cool stuff to talk about. But I will just say, guy in a dress with a horn on her head. That's what I'm gonna say. I love that. And you played bass in two different bands, right?
yeah, I play bass in two different bands now. I'm in a blues band that gets money every once in a while. We play old school, BB King style classic blues. We have a female singer, and she's really good. We keep changing our name. I think we're called Highway 16 right now. I'm lobbying to call ourselves the Chadalicious Six. Chad's our drummer. Um, and I'm in a punk metal band called Digging for Change, and we're really awful. And we just go up on stage and wear stupid outfits and make noise and bounce around for 45 minutes while everybody else bounces around. And that's, it's living the dream.
I went to school at Rice University, and I was a Pixies fan back then. And Surfer Rosa, the album was just, for me, it was a great album. They were playing locally at a bar, and I got there, and I went in, and it was like this tiny little bar, dude, right?
Uh-huh.
And this tiny little stage, and the Pixies got up there, and man, I have never seen an entire establishment be taken over by a mosh pit, but it was. It was crazy.
The biggest mosh pit I've ever seen was at the small club in Tucson, Arizona with Primus. Yeah. And everyone was bouncing. And my friend's girlfriend, who was with us at the time, she was probably 4'10". And we were like surrounding her, protecting her. And she was like physically being lifted up. I mean, the fire marshal would have shut that place down. I mean, looking back, I'm like kind of terrified about how packed it was. We were in it like this, and they had probably shoved 200 too many people in there, and when people jumped, you went up whether you wanted to or not. And that was like the craziest, most intense show I've ever been to. And I love Primus, but they're not my favorite band, but that was one of my favorite shows just because of how awesome it was.
Intense it was.
Yeah.
As a writer, and this kind of blew me away, Matt, because and again, we're going to get in this in a little bit when we talk about Dominion of Blades, but you're a pantser, and I never would have guessed that because your stuff is so deep. You have arcs and interweaving plots. I don't know, how do you do that as a pantser?
I think I'm what some people might call a hybrid pantser. I always have the beginning and I always have the end. Like, I know exactly how Dominion of Blades is going to end. I have the final scene already written in my head. And I have no idea how the hell I'm going to get there. And I like doing that. I like writing the beginning out, and then I'll quick outline the ending. And I like to paint myself in like a corner because I like surprises. I like having something that you have to think out of the box to get from point A to point B. And I found that's the best way to do it. Because when I plot stuff out, I find it's too linear, too straightforward, I guess, for my personal tastes as a writer. Because I like puzzle solving. It's like playing a game of Jenga, or not Jenga, Tetris. You go from point A to point B. How the hell are you going to get to point B when there's this big chasm in between it? And then you have to think of a weird way to do it. And that's what I like to do. And I just make it up as I go along. I really do.
Yeah, you said that was like one of your favorite parts of the creative process is like that eureka moment when you figure something out.
Right. And a lot of times I'll figure it out. I'll be working on it. And And I probably do this more than a lot of writers, maybe. I write a lot of stuff and then I trash it. I probably trash 3/4 of what I write before I get to a scene that I really like. And it's not because I don't like my writing itself, it's because I don't like what happens or how I make it happen. And a lot of times I'll be banging my head against some issue and then I'll come up with it like while I'm driving one of my kids to cheerleading practice or something, and then I'll be like, holy balls, that's it. I just had a revelation like that with book 3 right now. Just before we went on the air, I know how I'm going to start it.
And I had everything to do with that.
You did.
I inspired the book 3. Good, because I want to read that damn thing. So here's the other thing that blew my mind. This is probably blows my mind more than anything, is that you write your books, your drafts in second person.
Yes.
Who the hell does that?
A lot of people write the way they write third person or first person. They have a certain distance from the character. And as a reader and as a writer, I prefer to be super intimately close with the character, and second person lends itself to that. And so when I'll write it out like a couple thousand words, and then I will go back and I will fix it immediately. I won't wait till the end of the novel because I'll never finish it if I do that. And then I fix it right away. And then after a second or third pass of editing, I usually have them all. And sometimes I have to rewrite a lot of it. And it is an ass backwards way to do it, and I don't recommend it to anybody. It's just it's like a handicap.
It definitely sounds painful.
But it comes into my head like that. It's like you walk into the room and
right.
It's
maybe it's from like those old games where the
choose your own adventures and
yeah.
You are faced with a dark staircase. What do you do?
Let's just mention that for the people that are watching that maybe haven't read Dominion of Blades or any of your other stuff for that matter, is that your books aren't second person.
No.
Don't run away. Don't turn off the screen.
I wouldn't read a book in second person. No.
And so that's what's crazy about it. They are in first or third person. Good for you. If you had a superpower, I love superpowers. You said time freeze. What would you do with time freezing?
I would sleep. I would freeze time and I would sleep. Seriously? I mean, I would do all sorts of other cool stuff too. Stuff I probably shouldn't mention. No, seriously. You get older and older and older. I'm 44 years old now. I sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, and I wish I could sleep more. I have a lot going on. I write. I game when I can. I'm in 2 bands. I run a business. I have 1.5 employees, and there's just not enough time in the world. Yeah. I would write and I would sleep with time frozen so I could go out and do other stuff. And that's what I would do. I mean, I would probably rob a bank or two too, just to have money.
That I was waiting for it. Thank you.
Of course I would do that. I mean,
because I'm like, you walk into a bank, you take the money, and then you don't have to worry about time because you hire other people to do all this stuff and allow you to do whatever you want.
Right. No, I mean, of course I would do that too. I mean, I'm not dumb.
Of course, right.
I saw this one scientific thing. It's like if you touch something with time frozen, your hand would explode because of velocity. We don't want to go there. You'd be blind because light would be frozen too,
Well, that's the beauty of being a writer. We can write about that stuff, but in real life, yeah, it gets kind of messy.
Right.
Speaking of messy, I don't know. I ask everybody this in some form or fashion or another, but you said without a second thought that you would go on a one way, people. Not coming back. You'd go without a second, you'd go on a one-way mission to Mars.
I would. I mean, I wouldn't do it right now because I still have children who are under 18, and they'd probably be mad at me. But I would do it without a second thought. I'm happy here. I love my life. I love my wife. I love my kids. But who else has ever colonized another planet that's living? Nobody. I would do it. I would die probably. I mean, because
there's no probably about it, dude.
I mean,
gonna die.
Well, I mean, we all die, but I mean, I'll die in some horrible way on the way there.
Did you not see The Martian? I mean, that's gonna end horribly.
I am a big fan of like colonization type stuff.
Something's gonna be colonized. It's probably gonna be your body. with aliens. That's what's going to happen. I can't believe I asked that because there's some questions I ask on this podcast every time. That's one of them. And I just get surprised by the answer. But you did not even hesitate.
Without question, I would do it.
Wow. Well, another thing that I'll tell you what I wouldn't hesitate about, which is recommending your book, dude, because your 2 books, Dominion of the Blades 1 and 2, because they're both great.
Well, thank you very much.
Let's just start off with a bang, because my favorite character in the entire series is Poppy / Popper.
Well, that's everyone's favorite character. It seems, Poppy and Alice, but it's the dude in the dress. It's the 43-year-old dude that's stuck in the body of like a 7 or 8-year-old little girl.
In the game, let's point that out.
Yeah, in the game, yeah.
Pissed off about it. Player who's playing a girl character in the game. Let's point that out.
Involuntarily playing the girl character. He does not want to be in the body of the little kid.
And then when Popper finds his familiar, which is
Alice the Hippocorn.
Well, I need the full name of
Alice the Death Malice. The Hippocorn.
Yes. Alice the Death Malice Hippocorn. That is awesome. And they both have horns.
Yes.
They're like horn twins. I'm not going to say any more about Popper. Forget it. Off limits. You got to read it now. You want your Popper fix, go read the damn series.
Or look at the cover for the Hobgoblin Riot.
Yes, you will see her on there writing Alice. There's a lot going on in your books.
The overarching arch pretty much is set in stone what the story is going to be. And then we have the 3 main characters. You have Poppy, Jonah, and Gretchen. And all 3 of those have their own storylines. They're all broken people in their own ways. We learned Jonah's story in the first book. We learned Poppy's story in the second book, and we'll learn Gretchen's story in the third book. And then we have a lot of the NPCs, and we have some of the antagonists. And each one of those people, they have their motivations, which causes them to do what they want to do. And when you think about it, it's all tied back to the central story. They do this because of this, or this is who they are. And it's all a bundle, and it seems like there's a lot of different storylines going on at once, but it's really just one story. And I think that's why people say, it's simplistic or it's easy to follow. It's because, one, the characters are fairly distinctive, I think. So you'll know when I'm talking about I'm talking about this character, I'm talking about this character, because sometimes you'll read novels, they're great novels, but there's so many characters and sometimes it's hard to keep track who's who. But when there's a character in a dress swinging an axe, you know exactly who that is.
Yeah, hard to mistake that.
Right. And it all ties in together at the end.
Speak of, each character has their own story, and that's what I love about the books, is that there's so much depth to it. And one of the main stories is a little bit contentious, right?
Jonah, it's a spoiler, but I mean the book's been out for over a year now. So Jonah in the real world is born a female, and however, he's also transgender in the real world. He wishes to be a male. And so what happens when he wakes up in the game and finds himself to be in like the buff body of a male character, he is happier with that body than with his real life body. And that's the story, part of Jonah's story in the first book. And for whatever reason, a lot of people didn't like that. They thought I should have labeled the book LGBT simply because I had a trans character in the book. And it's not an LGBT story, I don't think. I mean, it's a story that just happens to have a trans character in it. It's going to be a major plot point in the end game scenario, but I mean, that's all I'll say about that.
And you have so many cool critters in the story. I don't know how you come up with these names. It's crazy. Like, you have the Hippocorn, which we mentioned. Alice, the
Death Malice.
And polecats and chinchillas and pazuzus. Is that how you say
Yeah, Pazuzu. Yeah, that's actually an actual demon, Sumerian demon. In the game world, it's a giant world that's based on a map of the real world. So if you're standing in a place that's like Romania in the real world, then the geography will be like Romania. And I like to pull mythological creatures from that area in the real world, in the real folklore of the world, I should say, and put them in the game in that area. And there's a lot of that peppered in. And then I also like just to mix crazy things like the Gorkupines, porcupine gorilla mixed. I just thought that was cool.
Those are badass. They kick ass in there. Jonah, the main character we just talked about, is also one of the main skills is being a cartographer.
Right.
Which is, I've never seen that skill before, really, in a game.
And I thought that was cool. I kind of like the idea of exploring the real world through the game, and without giving too much away, the cartography is important. The reason why Jonah's there is because of the cartography. It becomes a major part of the game, especially later on. And so I thought that was cool, a cool aspect. Like I wanted to write, the first one is a road trip, basically. There's several books I want to write. I wanted to write a road trip one. The second was a siege, and that's what I want to write. And the third one is a heist.
When's that coming out?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I'm working on it.
Killing me, dude. All right. Well, look, we have to address the elephant in the proverbial room here, and that is both of our favorite scenes in the book. And I'm going to try to do this without spoilers, but it's...
He puts the lotion on the troll nipple.
Come on. That quest is hilarious.
I actually ended up writing that almost at the end. A lot of writers write their battle scenes in different ways. Some people are like really technical with how the fights go, like Blaze Corvin, for example. He writes really great hand-to-hand fighting scenes because he's like a knife guy and he knows what he's talking about. I like to emphasize the craziness of multiple things happening at once. I thought something like that scene, without telling you what's happening now with spoilers, was a good way to showcase it. And
yeah,
there's like 5 things happening at once.
It's crazy. Just the fact that Popper and Jonah are arguing about who's putting the damn lotion on the nipple. I'm not doing it. Hell no, I ain't doing that. It's so funny. Kudos to you, dude. I was laughing so hard I was crying when I was reading that. All right, so go read those books. You are not going to put them down. They are a mile-a-minute fun fest, and I can't wait for the third one to come out. We're gonna move on to my favorite section of the podcast, and that is
Battle Who Wins.
Okay. So I pose to you, Matt.
Whip It Good, Indiana Jones's whip versus Jonah's triple fang.
And let me preface this by saying that you have one of the most unique weapons in Gamelit that I've ever read, and that's the Urumi. Is that how you said it?
The Urumi.
Urumi.
Yes.
Urumi.
Correct.
And it's like a hook blade whip. It's a crazy weapon.
Yeah, it's basically like a piece of like a flexible steel. People have 1-bladed ones or 3-bladed ones or like 16-bladed ones. They keep them wrapped around their waist, and they're super long. It's supposed to be your arm length is the proper length of it. And I saw a demonstration of one when I was a kid. It was years and years ago, and I just remember the sound. It sounded like those high tension wires.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the guy was like whipping them in circles, and I was like, "What the hell is that thing?" I mean, I had forgotten about it until when I was doing research for Dominion of Blades. I was searching through weapons, and then I saw like a random video of some guy. If you go on YouTube and search it, you can see some neat videos. But I thought it was really, really cool, and I wanted to utilize it somehow.
Yeah, they are definitely badass. I mean, I had never heard of that before. And they are just so cool. And you talk about using them for a belt. People are probably saying, well, how the hell do you use a blade for a belt? But that's because it's like a flat piece of metal, right?
Right.
And it's like on its side, it's kind of like a flat, beltish type thing.
If you think of a tape measure, you know how it's flexible, but you can also make it rigid, and then it curls. That's basically what it is.
Yes. And so Jonah has a triple bladed one called Triple Fang. So here's the whipped good battle, and I pose to you
Indiana Jones's whip versus Jonah's triple fang Irumi.
Jonah would kick Indiana Jones' ass, assuming Indiana Jones didn't pull his gun out and shoot him right in the face.
Well, you know that's gonna happen.
Well, he has to catch him by surprise, you know.
You bring a gun to a knife fight. I mean, come on. You knew that was coming.
I knew that was coming. I mean, if it's whip versus whip sword, there's no way. I mean, he would cut right through the whip. But like you surmise, and I know, Indiana Jones wouldn't even get close. He would pull out his gun, shoot him right in the face, and Jonah would be dead.
Boom. Dead.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we had some fun with that one. So here, my favorite character, Popper.
Battle of the Badass Horns.
Whose is cooler? Not whose is more damaging. Not whose is more, awesome in the stat range, but whose is just cooler? Popper's helmet horn or Callus Alice's horn? Unihorn.
I think the unihorn's cool. I mean, I like the helmet with the single horn. I mean, I think it's pretty neat. Aesthetically, it looks cool. But the hippopotamus with a horn. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you got me there. I mean, Popper is my favorite, and I love Vikings, as we'll talk about in a second. But I have to go with Popper because Popper is my favorite, and I love the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. It's a unihorn on a hippo.
That's cool.
How can you beat that? You can't. All right. I asked most people this one.
Battle of the RRs. Token versus Martin.
I'm going to have to go with Tolkien. George Martin was at Worldcon last week, walking around. Yeah, it was pretty surreal, actually. And I think he's great. I've read, I haven't read his wildcard stuff, but I've read all the Game of Thrones stuff that's out. He's a great writer. He's a beautiful writer. And he's big on the multiple threads and billions of characters, which I love. But I grew up reading, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. They can be just as confusing and confounding if you're not paying attention. And I probably like the Game of Thrones show better than I like the Lord of the Rings movies, which I also loved. But I still got to go with Tolkien, just for nostalgia's sake.
Good. There's only a few of us piling up on the Tolkien side. I'm glad to have you, man. We're going to take down those Martins. They're going down. Those damn Lannisters. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. As anyone who watches this podcast will know, because I probably mentioned it.
I can see your videos.
Yeah.
Back there. I have the same box set.
Yeah, I friggin' love that series. But hey, Game of Thrones, best production value ever in a series. You can't beat that. All right. My favorite one.
Battle of the Axes. Dwarves versus Vikings.
Okay, so I say dwarves, but I guess a lot of it depends on where, when, and how. And are we talking real Vikings from Scandinavia versus Lord of the Rings dwarves? Because the Lord of the Rings dwarves would kick their asses. I mean, if we're talking just regular little people with axes versus regular Vikings, and the Vikings would kick their asses.
All right. I'll give you a specific. Let's go with Gimli.
It's going to be okay.
No, Gimli versus Thor.
Oh, well, Marvel Thor?
Yeah, he's a Viking.
Yeah, he would kick Gimli's ass. He's practically.
Well, there you go. See, I can't get anybody to pick damn Vikings. Everybody dwarves.
When you say Vikings, I think of the History Channel TV show Vikings, not Thor.
Well, okay, but those guys are pretty badass.
They are badass.
On Vikings. It's a great show, by the way. And I stacked the deck. I cheated. You were on my side. You're a fellow metalhead, dude. I need you on my side.
I'll say
on the Tolkien side.
You can erase my answer on the questionnaire I filled out and put Vikings.
All right. Yes. Yes. Vikings. All right. Last one.
Battle of the Helmets.
Normally I put Darth Vader versus Stormtrooper, and nobody ever picks Stormtrooper, and I'm just a huge Stormtrooper helmet fan, so screw you all. I'm going with my favorite helmet now, Popper.
Darth Vader versus Popper.
Darth Vader's pretty iconic. I don't think I could ever go against Vader.
You're just being easy. Popper's helmet is just so much cooler.
Okay.
I mean, Vader, yeah, it is iconic, but it's not badass. It's just a helmet that's disguising his ugly scars
That's true.
and allowing him to breathe. And Rick Moranis made it look moronic.
That's true.
All right, so you're gonna go with Vader, fine, because you can't go with your own character. But I'm going with Popper. Damn it,
Okay.
Popper wins. All right, last one. You posed me a battle, and I haven't even read it because I'm going to read it. I'm going to go into this blind.
Okay, forgive me in advance.
A blindfolded Blaze Corvin, which we just talked about, is another writer who loves knives, armed with a cleaver,
A butcher's knife.
a butcher's knife, versus 5 10-year-olds with aluminum baseball bats. And 2 of the kids are hopped up on Crystal, and Blaze's shoes are untied. Oh my God. Wait, dude, how do you come up with this shit? This is like your books. This is what I love about this. This is beautiful. All right. I'm going to give you an answer.
Blaze is going down.
Forget about it, dude. They are taking him out. I don't care if his shoes are untied. I don't care if they're hopped up on Crystal. You can take all that out. They are taking Blaze down. Sorry, Blaze. You could have a pole axe. I don't think you'd win this one. I'm going with the kids with the aluminum baseball bats. Final answer.
Okay. I don't disagree. I think it depends on how quickly he goes down, because like little kids, I mean, if you hit them with one hit with the cleaver, they're down and out. Even if it doesn't take them out, they'll be screaming and crying and running away. So, but he can't see them. He's blindfolded. If second he goes down, second one of them's smart enough to hit him in the knees and another or in the head, and he goes down, he's dead. If he can manage to stay up on his feet long enough to get a nick in on all of them, then he'll be fine, I think. But his shoes are untied, he's tripping, I think he's going down.
All right, Blaze. Sorry, man. You've just been beaten to death by 5 10-year-olds. And that's the end of your writing career. And we'll never see another Ludus adventure again. And I hate that because I love that world. But I also love Dominion of Blades. So I want both of you to keep writing. Well, Matt, it was great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here, dude.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah, man. Peace out. Rock on.
See you later, man.
Thanks for watching Game Reads. Check out our other great interviews on YouTube and GameReads.net. Connect and chat with other fans on our Game Reads Facebook page and YouTube channel, and support us on Patreon.com. Please subscribe now to our YouTube channel or iTunes podcast and never miss an episode. Cheers to legendary gear.